So I recently picked up this game Redout because it was available pretty cheap on sale on Fanatical. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is kind of a spiritual successor to, well, mostly the F-Zero franchise of games, which I'm actually quite fond of. I know that I haven't really talked about any of the F-Zero games on the channel as of yet, just because I haven't really had cause or opportunity to do so, but I am quite fond of the old F-Zero games, in particular. I'm not hugely big on the Super Nintendo original, but I really like F-Zero X on the N64 and F-Zero GX on the GameCube. I think that these are both really fantastic, futuristic hover racing games, and Redout kind of goes out to intentionally evoke that kind of gameplay. I guess Redout is actually more of a spiritual successor to Wipeout than to F-Zero specifically, but I'm not super familiar with Wipeout. I've barely touched any of them, so I mostly just get F-Zero vibes from it. But from what I've seen and heard, it does seem like it is a little bit more Wipeout-y than F-Zero-y. But regardless, it definitely scratches that itch. It's that same fucking shit. It's that same type of futuristic, extremely high speed hover machine racing. I think that Wipeout had items and weaponry and whatnot, which this game does not, nor did F-Zero, which I actually prefer. Items and weapons are cool in like cartoony kart racers like Mario Kart or Sonic and Sega All Stars Racing. Christ, I am doing very poor here. My health is getting quite low. Yeah, I like weaponry and whatnot in like a more cartoony sort of racing game, but when it's just like an actual like high speed, gotta really accurately maneuver your ship in order to avoid slamming into the walls like I did all throughout this race. When it's that kind of a deal, I don't like to just suddenly be fucked up by a weapon when I'm trying to focus on steering my goddamn ship. But regardless, yeah, it scratches that itch. It's a very like pure kind of racing experience. It hits that like little point in my brain that just really appreciates an incredibly fast, pure racing experience, which is very much what this is. There's no bullshit in this game. You don't have like weird fucking power slides that lead to boosts or anything like that. You've just got your steering and your strafing. You need to tilt your nose up and down to go over loops and whatnot, and you got limited boost which recharges over time. Ugh. And you got fucking health that drains by dragging against the wall like that. I'm not very good at this game. I've only played a little bit of this game so far. I took it for a couple hour spin on the day that I picked it up. I was like, yeah, that's pretty fucking good, and then I kind of set it back down as I was working on finishing other stuff. I'm definitely going to run all the way through this game at some point because it's really fun. It's exactly what I want. It's a really fucking fun, fast anti-grav racer where you've got a really cool, striking visual style, and it's fucking fun. And I appreciate the inclusion of both steering and strafing. I think that allows for a very high degree of control over the anti-grav machine here. And that's just it feels satisfying, especially once you actually get good at it and learn the little all the little subtleties of how to steer, and start to be able to really take those corners as tight as you need to be, which I'm obviously not there yet. Like I think I mentioned earlier in passing, I am a bit more of a fan of F-Zero than this, but that shouldn't be taken as like as a condemnation of this. F-Zero GX is one of my favorite racing games of all time. Might even be my absolute favorite if I bothered to really think about what even might be competitive towards it. But yeah, it's F-Zero GX is an absolute classic, which I fucking love. So it would take an extremely good game to dethrone that. But this is a very enjoyable, very fun little anti-grav racer that I would highly recommend in general. It's definitely harder to deal with in terms of steering and whatnot than F-Zero, which is part of why I kind of liken it to Wipeout, because of what little I have played of Wipeout. It was definitely a much looser feeling game that was way harder to effectively steer than F-Zero. Fuck Christ. But yeah, this game has a very loose feel to its controls. Not as in the controls are bad per se. They just you've really got to kind of wrestle this thing into going where you want it to go, and kind of force it to avoid the walls, which it will slam straight into if you're not very careful. And I mean, it's not super hard to learn. Like you could probably see that I was kind of starting to get the hang of it over the course of that race there, but it's something that you gotta practice. It's something that just doesn't immediately come naturally the way that a lot of racing games might. Especially more arcadey and less realism focused ones than this. Not that this game is realistic per se, but it's kind of a realistic take on the mechanics of ridiculous anti-grav machines. Shit. I mean, you definitely don't have any friction with the ground. That is for damn sure. You'll slide all over the place, which is why it is very important that not only do you steer with the left stick, but you also strafe with the right stick. That's what'll keep you in your center line. If you can do it right. And this is a fucking cool track. The first couple of tracks that are available in the game are very standard. Just you're out in a desert on a track that goes around and it's all flat, and well, the last one had a jump, but that's not really much of an anything. But this is a fucking cool track that makes use of the possibilities of anti-grav racers, where you're going all over the place. I hope that the game continues to do more of this as it goes on. That'll definitely make me very happy. I also really like the aesthetic of this track. This purple and green and light blue. It's a very cool color feeling track, and it looks like it might be somewhere icy. It can be hard to tell what the environments even are with this kind of like with this kind of like low poly look that they have. But well, not low poly exactly, but I guess flat polygon would be correct, because nothing's really like textured or bump mapped in this game. But yeah, it kind of looks like I'm in like a snowy mountain or like the Arctic or something. Whatever it is, it's fucking cool and I like it, and that was not intended to be a pun, but it seems to have worked out that way, so that's also cool. Fucking shit. It's weird because I'll be like, very obviously screwing up and, fucking slamming into walls and shit, and then I pass the checkpoint. It's like, you passed that checkpoint half a second faster than you did last time. I'm like, oh, fucking did I? I thought I was doing terribly. I mean, it's entirely possible that I was just doing even worse before. And that's probably what's happening. I will say one thing that I'm not hugely fond of in this game is the fact that your energy for boost and your health are two separate meters. That was actually one of my favorite things about F-Zero GX, and F-Zero X for that matter, is that I think it's a really neat idea to... I'm going to retry that. I think it's a really neat idea to have both speed and health consume the same resource. I think that is a really interesting little bit of risk-reward design, where you can get that extra speed, but it will put you in a place where you can no longer screw up, because any screw up will instantly kill you since you have no fucking health left. And I think that that's a really interesting approach to game design, especially in a high speed, high stakes racing game like this. And I mean, obviously, this game's gotta kind of do its own thing. It can't just be F-Zero GX but with HD graphics. But I would like if it were. I would enjoy having a game that is just F-Zero GX but HD, and I think I saw some sparks while I was going over that. Should I have been fucking pitching my nose up the entire time when I was going around that curve? Probably. I've probably been massively screwing up by not doing so. Yeah, in retrospect it's obvious. But regardless, yeah, I can definitely appreciate that this game wants to kind of do things differently from F-Zero, and not have just the exact same system of health and energy being the same meter. But at the same time, I prefer that system. I think that it's a more interesting system than what we've got going on here. Not that this isn't interesting, I just think it's less interesting, Yeah, things are definitely going way smoother when I'm actually fucking pulling my nose up while going around that curve. I should probably have been doing that the entire time. Ah, shit, missed the fucking boost. That's a fucking downer. When you just barely miss a boost, and it's like, no, I hit the hologram though, but nope. Gotta hit it front and center, you know? I almost made that fucking curve without smacking any wall. Fuck. See, the thing with this game is that the turning is slippery, but in like a very specific way, where it can be hard to tell exactly when you actually need to start turning in order to avoid the walls. Nope, not good enough for gold. I'm just gonna keep redoing this. Actually, that's probably not a great idea for an actual video. Normally, I would keep redoing it until I get the gold, but then I just realized, wait a minute, I'm doing a fucking video right now. I should probably move on. I mean, not that I necessarily think that you guys super care about ensuring that I don't stay on the same track too much, but and I feel like it's the right way to go, is actually moving from course to course and continuing along the career mode, rather than just replaying the same mission over and over again, at least for the sake of visual variety and, you know, not having the entire video look exactly the same. Speaking of the visuals, I really like this game's aesthetic, which I kind of touched upon a little bit earlier, but yeah, I really like the sort of flat poly look that it's got to it. Things don't seem to be like, I mean, obviously there are textures applied to certain things, but in general, things have a very non-textured look to them, and there's definitely doesn't seem to be any sort of bump mapping or anything like that. You know, and especially I like how the sky looks. How you look up there and there are clouds, but they're not like clouds. They're little triangles. They're little white triangles up in the sky. I think that's really cool to look at. And it's a very video gamey kind of aesthetic, you know, and I like that. I appreciate it when a game tries to evoke video gamey aesthetics. You know, it's kind of comfy. It's also worth noting that this kind of very striking visual aesthetic means that this game can look really good even at very low settings like what I've got it on right now, because I ended up knocking the settings down quite a bit in an effort to just ensure that that the frame rate never dips below like 72. Because with this kind of game, I want to have maximum frame rate at all times, you know? I don't want it to ever dip at all, because every fucking little percentage of a second counts. But yeah, so even having the game really low like this, like, I think that I've got environment detail and all that like really fucking low. I've definitely got anti-aliasing turned as low as it'll go. I don't think that I have VSync on, but the game still looks really good, even if you can like kind of see you know, textures sort of melding into existence as you move forward and whatnot. It's still just a good looking game because it has such a striking visual aesthetic that it doesn't rely on all that super in-depth calibration of its graphics and whatnot to look good. It just does look good. I think this is probably going to be the last race that I do for this video, because it's kind of a shorter video than some of my other quick looks have been, but that's because it's a racing game, and that's not the kind of game that really lends itself to extremely long form video. I mean, especially this particular kind of racing game. I mean, anti-grav racers are notorious for being some of the most fast-paced in terms of how quickly you finish races. You know, like a single lap in this game is just like a few seconds. It's crazy. Like I think that like even on the longest courses, my lap tends to be around like 45 seconds, which is like fucking ridiculous by the standards of other racing games. Man, I can't get over how much I like this aesthetic of these ice levels. The fucking crystalline shit all over the place, and everything being all blue and purple. It's very cozy. It's very very vaporwave. I need to get a purple fucking race machine so that I can more effectively blend in with this environment, be part of it. Whew. I always get kind of nervous on those jumps because it seems like it would be pretty easy to accidentally go sailing off the side. Oh man, that was fucking close. So yeah, that's fucking Redout. I would generally recommend it. It's a really fun racing game if you're into that sort of thing. You know, I mean, you know, obviously you can probably tell whether it seems like your kind of thing just by looking at it. You know, do you find it appealing to go extremely fast in a hover machine around a big track? Then pick it up if it does seem cool, because it is. That's all I got.